Have you ever wondered why certain women remain unforgettable long after they leave a man's life, while others fade like a dream before dawn? It is not beauty alone, nor charm, nor the superficial glow of youth that carves them into memory. It is something deeper, darker, more primal, an energy that touches the shadow of a man's psyche. This is the forbidden path of attraction, where light and shadow meet, where the soul is stirred beyond reason, and where memory refuses to let go. She becomes unforgettable not by pleasing, but by unsettling. Not by fitting into the image of what society demands, but by stepping beyond it. In Jungian language, she awakens the anima in him, the hidden feminine within every man's unconscious. And once stirred, this force cannot easily be silenced. For the man who encounters such a woman, she is not merely a person, she becomes a mirror, a catalyst, a haunting. She embodies his projections, his longings, his fears, and his unspoken wounds. To him, she is not only a woman, she is myth incarnate. There is danger in her presence, but also liberation. A woman who has walked the shadow path does not shrink from her darker impulses. She has made peace with jealousy, rage, desire, ambition, forces most are taught to suppress. She has taken what others bury and allowed it to breathe. In doing so, she becomes whole. Men sense this wholeness in ways they cannot articulate. They feel pulled toward it, as if by gravitational law. The paradox is that she does not need their recognition. Her energy speaks before her words, and her presence lingers after her departure. Imagine the quiet power of a woman who no longer fears rejection because she has already met her own shadow and survived it. She does not seek validation, for she has withdrawn the power she once gave to others. In her eyes, a man confronts not only her, but himself. Her gaze feels ancient, almost archetypal, as if she has known him long before this life. When she speaks, her words carry weight because they are not rehearsed, but born of integration. Such a woman is unforgettable because she embodies the wholeness most people crave but never dare to claim. Men may call her dangerous, enchanting, intoxicating. In truth, she is none of these things. She is simply free. Free from the chains of expectation, free from the prison of needing to be good, free from the lie that love is earned through sacrifice of self. And yet, paradoxically, her very freedom binds men to her memory. For once they glimpse her, they cannot return to the illusions they once lived by. She exposes the fragility of their control, the cracks in their armor, the hunger in their soul. Do you feel the weight of that kind of presence? Can you imagine the way a woman becomes etched into memory, not by compliance, but by contrast, by embodying the pieces men exile from themselves? She is unforgettable because she is not afraid of her own intensity. She lets it move through her like fire, not fearing that it will consume her, but trusting that it will purify. And so she walks through the world, a living paradox, tender yet untouchable, fierce yet forgiving, luminous yet cloaked in mystery. The unforgettable woman is that test. She does not offer comfort, she offers awakening. And to awaken is to be shaken. For a man, she becomes the storm he resists and the silence he cannot escape. Long after her footsteps vanish, her imprint remains on his choices, his longing, his dreams. She is remembered not because she demanded it, but because she revealed something in him that can never be unseen. And here lies the truth. She does not set out to be unforgettable. That would be ego. Instead, she becomes unforgettable precisely because she has stepped beyond ego's hunger. She lives in alignment with her essence, no longer fractured by the opinions of others. This authenticity is rare, and rarity is magnetic. A man may forget the smile of the woman who flattered him, but he will never forget the one who showed him who he really was. This is the shadow path of attraction. It is not about manipulation or control. It is about embodiment, becoming whole, both in light and in darkness. To walk it is to risk misunderstanding, judgment, even exile. Yet to walk it is also to gain the kind of power that does not need to shout. It whispers through silence, it echoes through memory. It lingers in the heart long after the woman herself has gone. She becomes unforgettable because she is not afraid to break the spell of comfort. Most women are trained to smooth the edges, to soothe egos, to remain agreeable so as not to disturb. But the woman of shadow, the woman of depth, will not diminish herself to protect the illusions of another. She understands that love without truth is no love at all. It is only a fragile bargain. When she speaks, her words may sting, but they awaken. When she leaves, her absence cuts deeper than her presence ever could. For she embodies the truth men spend lifetimes avoiding, that the soul cannot be possessed, only encountered. Carl Jung wrote of the anima as the force that pulls a man into his unconscious, demanding he confront his hidden longings and wounds. The unforgettable woman is the living embodiment of this force. In her presence, a man feels both drawn and threatened, as though standing before a mirror that reflects not just his surface, but his shadow. He may resist, he may rage, he may even run, but he will not forget. For she is the threshold where he glimpsed his own soul, and thresholds are not easily erased. There is something almost mythic in her being. She carries the archetype of the enchantress, yet without malice. She is Persephone rising from the underworld, Lilith who refused subjugation, Inanna who descended into death and rose again. Her power does not come from manipulation but from integration. She has sat in the dark nights of her soul and learned to hold her own chaos. This gives her a weight, a density, a gravity that men cannot explain, and so they call her unforgettable, because what they truly mean is that they cannot escape the echo of themselves she revealed. You might think it is beauty that binds men to memory, but beauty fades in time, and countless beautiful women are forgotten. It is the woman who dares to reveal his shadow who endures in his mind. The man may try to bury her, dismiss her, replace her, but she will return in his dreams, in the sudden ache of longing, in the silence between moments. Why? Because she represented the part of him he has not yet claimed. Until he integrates that, she will remain like a haunting melody that lingers after the song has ended. This is why she does not chase. She does not beg, does not plead, does not lower her value in pursuit of attention. She understands a deeper law. The unforgettable do not need to cling, because memory itself clings for them. She does not fear being forgotten, because she knows she has already imprinted herself, not through desperation, but through authenticity. The very act of being whole, unbroken by external demand, makes her presence indelible. Imagine the quiet strength of such a woman. She sits across from a man, unhurried, unbent, unshaken. He feels both desire and fear rising within him, not because she plays games, but because she refuses to wear a mask. Her authenticity is confrontational, her essence undeniable. She awakens in him a recognition that he may not even understand, that she holds something he has lost within himself. He cannot articulate it, but he feels it, and feelings like that are not easily forgotten. Modern psychology speaks of trauma, attachment, self-worth. What is most often overlooked is the paradox that healing begins not with comfort, but with rupture. The unforgettable woman creates this rupture. She does not coddle the false self. She tears it apart simply by existing as her true self. Her refusal to perform awakens his hidden wounds. And though he may resist, he will remember. He will remember the woman who mirrored his brokenness, not with judgment, but with unflinching presence. The Stoics would call her dangerous. Marcus Aurelius warned against becoming enslaved by passion. Seneca cautioned that desire makes men weak. And yet, even they understood that the test of the soul lies in its encounters with intensity. The unforgettable woman is that test. To meet her is to be asked, will you cling to illusion, or will you grow? Many men fail, but even in failure, they do not forget. For she has marked them, not with her possession, but with her truth. And here is the irony. She is not trying to be unforgettable. Her power lies precisely in her detachment. She has chosen herself first, embraced her own shadow, and walked through the fire of self-acceptance. She knows her worth does not depend on who stays or who leaves. And it is this freedom, this refusal to beg for belonging, that etches her into memory more deeply than any performance of devotion ever could. She does not belong to him. She belongs to herself. And that is why he will remember her. There comes a moment when the unforgettable woman no longer seeks to be loved in the ways the world has taught her. She has tasted the shallow sweetness of validation, the fleeting intoxication of desire, and found them both insufficient. Instead, she anchors herself in a deeper knowing that her worth is not measured by who recognizes it, but by the very fact of its existence. This shift is subtle, yet it transforms everything. For when a woman no longer needs to be remembered, she becomes unforgettable. Jung would call this individuation, the process by which one moves beyond masks and roles, integrating both the light and the shadow into a unified whole. The unforgettable woman has walked this path, often through fire. She has faced the part of herself she once feared, the anger she was told to suppress, the grief she was told to hide, the power she was told to relinquish. She has let them burn through her until she could no longer be shattered by them. In this rebirth, she finds not only herself, but a new form of magnetism, the kind that does not beg, but beckons. Men sense it. They cannot name it, but they feel it. It unsettles them because it does not fit the script they expect. They are used to women who comply, who mold themselves into shapes that fit their desires. But here she is, unyielding, radiant, and whole. She does not resist him, nor does she pursue him. She simply stands, sovereign in her being. And that sovereignty is what lingers long after she is gone. For sovereignty is rare, and the soul remembers rarity like the tongue remembers salt. It cuts into the body, impossible to forget. It is often said that absence makes the heart grow fonder, but in truth, it is authenticity that makes the soul restless in memory. Her absence is powerful only because her presence was real. Unlike others who played roles, she left nothing to illusion. She gave him the experience of meeting someone unmasked, someone who did not flinch from her own depths. That rawness is carved into his psyche, and though he may try to bury it beneath distraction, it will surface again and again. Consider how shadows work. They do not vanish when ignored. They only grow darker. When she enters his life, she activates his shadow, forcing him to confront the parts of himself he avoids. He may resent her for it. He may curse her name, blame her for the discomfort she stirred. Yet secretly, he will also crave her, for the soul is drawn to its own lost pieces. She becomes unforgettable, not because she provided pleasure, but because she awakened truth. And truth, once glimpsed, cannot be unseen. You too may have felt this power in yourself. Have you noticed how certain men grow restless around you, as though they cannot decide whether to worship you or flee? Have you seen the way their eyes flicker between longing and fear? That is the shadow dance. You are not merely a woman to them. You are an initiation, a threshold. And thresholds are never forgotten. Philosophers knew this long before psychology gave it language. Epictetus taught that no one can make you lesser without your consent. The unforgettable woman lives this principle fully. She does not bend herself to gain affection, because she knows that bending leads only to resentment. She would rather stand tall and risk solitude than bow and betray herself. And so she is remembered, because men are not accustomed to women who refuse the bargain of diminishment. Her refusal is shocking, almost violent in its clarity. Yet it is also magnetic, for what is rarer than a soul that belongs only to itself? This is the paradox of attraction. The more she chooses herself, the more indelible she becomes in the minds of others. Her independence is not coldness. It is warmth without desperation, fire without need. She can love deeply, but she does not collapse into love. She can give fully, but she does not give herself away. This balance between openness and sovereignty creates a tension that lingers like perfume on the air, subtle, haunting, unforgettable. And so, when she walks away, she does not vanish. She becomes a phantom in his memory, an echo of something greater than desire. He may hold other women, but he will compare them to her, whether he admits it or not. He may chase new thrills, but the thrill of meeting her authenticity will shadow every encounter. She has become more than a woman in his story. She has become a symbol, a reminder of what he has yet to claim within himself. The truth is this: she never needed to be remembered, but in refusing to need, she became impossible to forget. To understand the shadow path of attraction, one must see how deeply it is tied to the alchemy of transformation. The unforgettable woman is not simply memorable because of what she says or how she looks. She is unforgettable because she embodies the hidden currents that most dare not touch. She does not float on the surface of connection. She dives beneath it, drawing others with her into the realm of archetypes, symbols, and unspoken truths. Jung once wrote that, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The unforgettable woman has already faced this reckoning. She has pulled her unconscious into the light, learned its language, embraced its contradictions. This is why she unsettles men so profoundly. She is not a projection, not a fantasy, not a mask designed to soothe. She is the mirror that shows him his own unfinished work. And while he may try to resist, a part of him knows he cannot turn away. For the soul longs not for comfort, but for completion. The unforgettable woman represents completion in its rawest form, not because she completes him, but because she awakens him to his incompleteness. In her presence, his carefully built walls tremble. His armor feels suddenly heavy. His well-worn patterns of conquest or control falter. She does not yield to them, nor does she rage against them. She simply renders them irrelevant. Her truth cuts through the performance, and what remains is unbearable in its purity. Have you felt this within yourself? Have you ever noticed how a man's eyes shift when you refuse to play small? He expects compliance, perhaps even adoration, but instead, he encounters something else. Something that does not collapse before him, but rises beside him. It is in this moment that he realizes he cannot reduce you to a role. And roles are forgettable, but archetypes live forever. You are not the damsel, not the prize, not the mother, not the muse. You are all of them and none of them. You are the self, in Jung's terms. The totality that includes every fragment, both shadow and light. That totality cannot be forgotten. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." The unforgettable woman embodies this stoic wisdom. She does not beg for reassurance, nor does she allow the shifting winds of affection to dictate her worth. She has learned the art of detachment, not as numbness, but as liberation. When a man pulls away, she does not chase. When he grows cold, she does not collapse. She feels, yes, but she does not shatter. And because she does not shatter, she becomes the one who lingers in his mind. For what terrifies men most is not her beauty, nor her mystery, but her resilience. She cannot be broken by absence. She cannot be caged by control. She does not cling, and in her refusal to cling, she reveals his dependence. This revelation unsettles him, for it flips the ancient script. The unforgettable woman is not unforgettable because she holds on, but because she can let go with grace. She can walk away without looking back, and that walk becomes etched into memory more deeply than any embrace. Attraction, in its truest form, is not about possession. It is about recognition. He recognizes in her something he has lost within himself, the courage to be whole. She recognizes in him the hunger for that wholeness. Their meeting ignites a fire that neither can easily extinguish. Whether they remain together or part ways, the spark has already altered them, and it is alteration, not affection, that the psyche remembers most. You may wonder why this path feels so heavy at times. To carry the shadow is to carry fire, and fire consumes. The unforgettable woman often pays a price for her power. She is envied, misunderstood, sometimes even condemned. People project onto her what they cannot face in themselves. They call her too much, too intense, too unattainable. Yet these words are confessions, not truths. They reveal more about the speaker's fears than about her essence. For what they are truly saying is this: she reminds me of what I lack, and I cannot bear to look at it. Still, she does not shrink. She knows that to dim her fire would be to betray her own becoming. And so she remains luminous, even if that luminosity blinds some and burns others. She walks with the paradox of being both desired and feared, both admired and resisted. This paradox is not a burden, but a crown. It is the price of sovereignty, and the key to her unforgettable presence. For in the end, what endures is not the woman who begged to be remembered, but the woman who became herself fully. Memory clings not to need, but to power, and power, when rooted in authenticity, becomes eternal. There is a quiet law of the psyche. What is repressed in one will be embodied by another. The unforgettable woman is unforgettable because she dares to embody what so many repress. Where others smile to conceal their pain, she lets her scars breathe. Where others seek validation through compliance, she stands firm in defiance. Where others play the role of savior, she refuses to heal what is not hers to mend. This refusal is not cruelty, it is clarity. And clarity is magnetic, for in a world of illusions, truth shines like fire in the night. CarlJung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine within the man, the masculine within the woman. The unforgettable woman carries both with balance. She is soft enough to awaken his longing, strong enough to awaken his respect. She does not collapse into dependency, nor does she harden into detachment. Instead, she walks the razor's edge where tenderness and power meet. And on that edge, she is unforgettable, because she reflects the integration every soul secretly craves. Do you see the paradox here? The more she releases the need to be remembered, the more she becomes impossible to forget. Men forget the ones who clung too tightly, who shaped themselves around his preferences, who erased their own desires to preserve his comfort. But the woman who did not bend to his unconscious demands, the one who met him with equal fire, she lives on in his dreams, long after her footsteps have faded. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When a man encounters such a woman, he is confronted with the truth that he is not free. He sees how much he is still governed by his projections, his ego, his unacknowledged wounds. Her presence destabilizes him, for she does not allow him to remain asleep. She calls forth his own mastery, not through words of encouragement, but through the pressure of her being. And whether he rises to that call or retreats into denial, the mark is made. He has met his mirror, and mirrors are not easily forgotten. Some women ask, how do I become unforgettable? The answer is not in adornment or performance. It is in shadow work. It is in facing the parts of yourself you were taught to hide, the jealousy, the rage, the hunger, the fear. To face them, to integrate them, is to radiate a wholeness few can ignore. Men may not always understand it consciously, but the unconscious recognizes power when it stands before him. It recognizes the difference between a mask and a woman who has burned her masks to ash. Think of it this way. When a storm passes, you may forget the sound of the rain, but you do not forget the lightning. The unforgettable woman is lightning. She does not need to strike often. One flash is enough to etch itself permanently into memory. She is unforgettable, not because she seeks to dominate, but because she embodies authenticity with such intensity that it leaves no room for pretense. And yet, this path is not easy. To carry the shadow is to stand alone at times. It is to watch others walk away because they cannot bear to face the truth you reflect. It is to resist the temptation to shrink, to soften, to dilute yourself into something more palatable. But it is also to discover a freedom that few ever taste. The freedom of no longer begging for love. The freedom of knowing that your value is not determined by who stays or who leaves. In the silence of that freedom, something extraordinary happens. Attraction ceases to be a performance. It becomes a natural emanation, like fragrance from a flower, like light from the sun. You do not force it, you do not chase it, you do not strategize it. You embody it, and embodiment, when it is real, becomes eternal. For the unforgettable woman, every interaction is an initiation. She does not seek to collect admirers or to control outcomes. She simply lives in truth, and that truth leaves a mark. It may wound, it may heal, it may unsettle, but it will not vanish. And this, perhaps, is the deepest secret of attraction. To be unforgettable, one must be unafraid of being fully human. The unforgettable woman has walked through fire and emerged whole. She carries both ashes and flame, both tenderness and ferocity. And it is this paradox, this completeness, that ensures her presence lingers long after her absence. For she has become not just a woman in memory, but an archetype in the soul. When the shadow has been faced and the masks abandoned, a new kind of silence enters her life. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of sovereignty. In that silence, she no longer asks, "Will he remember me?" She no longer bargains with fate for permanence in another's mind. She knows that remembrance is a consequence, not a pursuit, and so she stops seeking it. And that is precisely when it begins to happen, because nothing is more haunting than the one who does not beg to be haunted. Jung said that what remains unconscious will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. The unforgettable woman is the one who has wrestled with her unconscious and brought its contents to light. She is no longer ruled by the fear of abandonment, the craving for validation, or the endless loop of comparison. These forces still whisper, but they no longer chain her. Instead, she meets them with awareness, with discipline, with grace. In that mastery, her presence becomes different. She carries herself as though she needs nothing from the world, and paradoxically, the world cannot stop offering itself to her. Men sense it immediately. The unforgettable woman does not approach as supplicant, nor as conqueror. She stands as equal. He feels in her something rare. She could walk away at any moment, not from cruelty, but from choice. And that choice electrifies him. For every man knows, even if unconsciously, that the bond he truly desires is not forged in dependency, but in freedom. And freedom, when embodied by a woman, is intoxicating. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who reminded himself daily that external praise or blame holds no weight compared to inner virtue. The unforgettable woman lives this truth. She does not rise or fall by the applause of others. She does not crumble when ignored, nor does she inflate when admired. She has built her throne within, and so her gaze is steady, her energy undisturbed, her allure unmanufactured. She becomes a force not because she demands recognition, but because she embodies what so many secretly crave, liberation from the tyranny of external approval. And yet, there is warmth within her strength. To mistake her self-possession for coldness would be an error. For she is not distant, she is present, fully, fiercely, vulnerably present. But her presence is not transactional. She does not offer affection as currency, nor does she withhold it as weapon. She loves freely, but she does not cling. She gives fully, but she does not deplete. This balance, of depth without dependence, of intimacy without entrapment, is what makes her unforgettable. She is a rare mirror, reflecting both his longing and his limitations, both his potential and his fears. Do you understand now why she cannot be erased? It is not her beauty, though beauty may draw his gaze. It is not her words, though her voice may echo in his mind. It is not even her kindness, though kindness leaves a mark. It is her wholeness. Wholeness is unforgettable because it is so rare, and the psyche hungers for it like the body hungers for water. She awakens in him the thirst for his own integration, and though he may never reach it, he will always remember the one who revealed its possibility. She does not resist endings. She does not chase what fades. for she has learned that everything transient serves the eternal within. And so she lets go, and in letting go she becomes immortal in memory. Men may leave her life, but they never truly leave her orbit. They circle in thought, in dream, in shadow, unable to sever the tie completely, for she represents not just herself, but the archetype of wholeness his soul cannot forget. This is the final paradox. She becomes unforgettable by not trying to be unforgettable. She becomes eternal by embracing impermanence. She becomes magnetic by releasing the need to attract. And in that release, she discovers the ultimate power, the power of choice. She is no longer chosen by circumstance or desperation. She chooses, freely, fully, without fear.